Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is the Hostos Student Leadership Academy Friday Ambassador Workshop Series. It's 11:12. That's the date, and the time is 3:35, and we're really excited to get going today. We have with us the extraordinary, the talented, the wonderful, the incredible Dr. Christina Marin from coming to us live from Arizona. Uh, Wonderful collaborator, wonderful teacher, professor, theatrical artist, director, who has a lifelong abundance of knowledge that she loves to share with the Hostos community, especially us in the Leadership Academy. So it's our honor, my privilege to introduce to you my good friend Christina, the Dr. Marin, who is a recently brand new mom. So give her a round of applause for that. We love that.
Brand new.
And so, Christina, I turn it over to you.
Great. So, just so y'all know, we have another attendee. If you weren't here before when I turned my screen, that is my 3-month-old daughter who turned 3 months today. She was born on August 12th after a 10-year-long journey with all things fertility. So we are so thrilled to have this young one in our lives. Her name is Itzel. She, I believe, just finished her bottle. So hold on one second while I take it off for her. Okay, now you can go to sleep. If she starts crying, so my husband is on paternity leave from his wonderful job. But the supply chain issues in the world have now trickled down to my family because one of the things that is in very, very short supply is baby formula. So my husband is driving to the other side of Arizona basically to buy baby formula because there is none locally. And even Amazon, that we were on a subscription from, was like, yeah, we're out. Sorry, bye. I was like, great, thanks. So that is, she's here with me. She's here with us in the workshop. And so, yeah, I have been doing workshops with and for the Leadership Academy and Jason for many years now. I used to live in Manhattan. I was actually raised in Queens. So I'm a New Yorker at heart. And my husband is from Mexico City, but his family's all here in Phoenix. So that's why I'm here. I also did my PhD here at Arizona State University in theater. And so while I was doing that, I discovered this whole series of ways through Theater of the Oppressed that I started to use in workshops to address all sorts of issues. Oppression, literally like, leadership, time management, problem solving. And so I've been doing this pretty much not just all over the country, but in a lot of different places in the world. I've been to Mexico. My father's from Colombia. I've done this work down there in Colombia, Ecuador, Turkey, South Africa, a couple of different places, Singapore. But what's interesting to me is that Hostos has always been like coming home for me. Every time Jason calls me or emails me and is like, hey, you want to come do a workshop? I'm like, yes. Simply because over the years, I have found that Hostos students just really get it. And they get a lot. And there's just some also like really great memories from workshops with people from Hostos. So someone's like birthday feed just came up the other day, and there was a picture of me just doing I can't remember the guy's name, but I think it was someone else's picture. And it was so awesome to see. I was like, wow, we've been doing this for a long time. So I understand that Jason has told you that today we're going to be talking about the 4 agreements and energy vampires. If we have time at the end, I'll also do some stuff about time management and problem solving. But I'm currently working on a chapter for a book about using the 4 agreements, which we'll talk extensively about today, to teach acting. And so, as Jason has said, I'm at heart a theatrical artist who has a PhD in theater and a director. So I'm in the middle of directing a play right now, and these 4 agreements are things that I use every day in practice when I work with actors. But they don't just apply to actors, they apply to pretty much, everything we do in our lives. So what I am going to do is, you already made me go here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and it's going to come up on a Google Slides presentation. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on present. So we're going to go through this, but I don't just want this to be me talking at you. Okay, so please, please, please get your chat room ready so you can, the chat should be up on your screen so that you can see. Oh, thank you, Danielle. I appreciate that. Thank you, Falu. And so keep your chat open in case I say, what does that make you think of? And then we'll go ahead and put it in the chat. You can also unmute yourself, turn your camera on, and share with the group, in actual spoken words. Can you believe? We can actually talk to each other. So much of these virtual meetings are like, put it in the chat, but we can also have a conversation. But if you feel more comfortable leaving your camera off and putting it in the chat, that is also what you can do. Okay? Any questions before we get started talking about using the 4 agreements to deal with our energy vampires? You're like, what can we have questions about? We have no idea what you're talking about. Let's get started. All right, so the 4 agreements is a book. Has anyone put in the chat if you have ever read this book or had any exposure to the 4 agreements? So we'll see, and you don't have to write no in the chat, just if you have. Okay, if you have, just go ahead and let us know. So it seems like no one really has had experience with the 4 agreements. Now, the 4 agreements are written by a man named Don Miguel Ruiz, who is a Nahua from the Eagle Knight lineage of the Toltec people. And the Toltecs, if you know anything about the history and the generations and civilizations of Mexico, this is where this all comes from, like the Aztecs, the Mayans, the Toltecs, the Chichimecas. So there's a whole lineage of civilizations that come down through the centuries in Mexico. And what this is subtitled, which I think is really important, is a practical guide to personal freedom. So when you think about that, a practical guide to personal freedom, the idea of allowing ourselves not to live in a way that would make us feel not free, right? That would make us feel constrained and limited and pressured and stressed. So if we want personal freedom from all those things, this is one way. I will never say that this is the way, right? There's no formula to personal freedom, but this for me has really given me a perspective on how do I want to live my life and how do I want to interact with other people. So let me just look at my notes for a second. So yes, I was going to do something completely different. I just want to review. Okay. Next slide. Nope, this way. So thousands of years ago, right, the Toltec were known throughout southern Mexico as women and men of knowledge. The Toltec were scientists and artists who formed a society to explore and conserve the spiritual knowledge and the practices of the ancient ones. They came together as masters, or nahuals, and students at Teotihuacan, the ancient city of pyramids outside of Mexico City, known as the place where man becomes God. Has anyone ever been to the pyramids in Mexico? I went 3 years ago with my husband and his parents, and it is absolutely breathtaking to climb those stairs all the way up to Brian. You've been lovely. So there's the sun pyramid, there's the moon pyramid, and then there's the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl. So just really this beautiful area where you drive out to this area where it's sort of preserved into, you're walking where people walked thousands of years ago. And it is really beautiful. Okay, so the Toltec knowledge that this book is based in arises from the same essential unity of truth as all the sacred esoteric traditions found around the world. So, esoteric is a vocabulary word that not all of us might, be familiar with. So what I've done is I've created a link to a dictionary, dictionary.com. So esoteric means understood by or meant for only the select few who have special knowledge or interest. Recondite. Poetry, full of esoteric allusions, is poetry that only a few select people might know the meaning to, belonging to the select few, private, secret, confidential, right? So when we talk about, let me go back to the phone. So I can do. When we talk about sacred esoteric traditions, right? Parts of like religious and spiritual practices are known to small groups, right? Not everyone in the community knows what the deepest knowledge might be. It's not a religion though. So don't think Jason's like, today we're going to convert you all to the four agreements and you're all going to walk out tomorrow and you'll be Toltecs. No, that is not what we're here to do. It honors all the spiritual masters who have ever taught on the earth. It also embraces spirit or spirituality. It is most accurately described as just a way of life, right? A way to put one foot in front of the other. And it's distinguished by the ready accessibility of happiness and love. And someone just raised a hand, and who was that? Hold on, because I only see, it is, hold on. So go ahead and unmute, or if you want to put a question in the chat, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, it was me. Isn't it debatable though? Because I'm like, you can label that as most of the like religions as well. Maybe the four ways could have started as one, or at least like the basis of rules for religion, like like the Ten Commandments. Technically, you don't
Sure.
have to believe in it to follow them. So
Sure.
is it kind of like that?
And there are people who look at the Bible, which would be the Old Testament and the New Testament, instead of looking at those as religious texts. Some people examine those two texts as literature. Right?
Yeah, it is.
So, from different religions, absolutely, right? When you think about, the questions of some of the things that are described in the Bible, right? Of the parting of the Red Sea, right? Before we had film, right? You had to really draw people in to the ideas through storytelling. Right? So maybe there was a huge storm which brought water like waves that were super, super high. And people looked at it and thought, oh my goodness, the whole thing is just opening up. And then there are people who absolutely, with faith that they have, believe that the Red Sea actually opened up and the Israelites walked through. Right? And so people look at it from different. I think this is really, really a great point, Junior. Junior, right? Is that who's?
Yeah. That's
okay.
fine.
Yeah. I'm just trying to put pictures and names and faces all together. I think it's a great point that yes, this is sort of a baseline, fundamental foundation for something that may have been a religious practice. But what I'm saying is today, the book that was written isn't meant to indoctrinate anyone into a religion. It's meant as a sort of self-help book to give you the tools to say, I'm going to live life in this way. And again, it's only one of many kind of spiritual guideposts, right? That you can say, I mean, you can get to the end of this workshop and be like, wow, that lady was wackadoodle. She has no idea what she's talking about. But no, Jason loves her, so it's okay. We'll also like her. Or you could be like, I'm going to go and I'm going to read this book because I think I need to go deeper. And Don Miguel Ruiz has also written other books, and his son also now is in the same lineage and writes as well. So there's a book called The Fifth Agreement, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Don't let me forget to mention it. But when I do the workshop and when I talk about all of these practices, I use the first four. Does that answer your question, Junior?
Kind of.
I mean, really, like, I don't know that you really. Well, the question that you asked was, do I think it is sort of relative and that it could be early? Yes, absolutely. All religions, that's, many of them have these, sacred texts and many books that, go along with their practices. So, yeah, today I'm not trying to indoctrinate anyone to a religion, but just look at it as knowledge brought down from many generations. Okay. Let's see, I'm going back here. Oh, wait, hello. There we are. Why is it full screen? I'm going to escape full screen because I can't see that. Okay, hold on. Present. All right, hold on. Technical difficulties.
While that's happening, let me give a comment.
Yeah.
That may enlighten some. So you know how I know you mentioned indoctrinate a lot, and sometimes, well, I really thought about it. So I think that the foundations of religion, before they were, before they, formally considered it a practice of religion, I think the settings of rules that they had were just to make sure society does not crumble, or to keep, because I'm like, original religion was originally to keep people together, and so I don't think it became religion until, later on, and it became, so, oh, well, this is to indoctrinate you, because I think that's what you're citing, that these are just the baselines of the teachings. They aren't here to tell you, oh, well, you have to believe in this God.
Right.
They're just
Exactly.
the generalization of, okay, we can all agree to this, right?
And there are a lot of similarities between religion and mythology. If you look at those two sort of entities, mythology is really used to have people, it's all about storytelling, right? To have people have a story to understand the way things are in the world and how the world came to be, and how, how you are supposed to practice sort of community, and how you're supposed to treat other people, how you're supposed to treat yourself, right? A lot of the religions of the world talk about many of the same principles. Honor your mother and father, love thy neighbor, don't do bad things, right? But at the same time, over the course of history, right, many wars have been fought on the basis of religion, and also religion in some cases has really transformed into a business, right? There's like, some of the major religions of the world are like major corporations that collect money from their constituents. And so,
You mean donations? That's what they
donations
call them.
or
That's what they call them,
tithing.
at least.
They
Yeah.
also call them tithing, which is a requirement in some religions. So donation is something that is of your own free will. Tithing is something that you're expected to do. So, okay, we're getting too much into religion. We're going to go back to the four principles,
Yeah,
the four
I'm sorry.
agreements. No, but it's all really, really interesting. And it really does kind of set us into a space where we can see the difference between what we're about to look at and religion, because it's not that. Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is be impeccable with your word. Impeccable. Let's take a look. Faultless, flawless, irreproachable, not liable to sin, or incapable of sin. So, be impeccable. with your word. What does this mean? Does anyone want to? Thus, the practicality. Chancellor, yes. Excellent. The practicality of the spiritual knowledge we're going to talk about. Love it. Does anyone want to talk a little bit about, or put in the chat, what this means to them just on sort of like first encountering this agreement? Be impeccable with your word. What does this translate to for you personally?
Hi, this is Kobe.
Hi, Kobe.
I believe what they're trying to say is be unapologetic with what you say, because like there's no like moral right answer. You know, you have a right to believe what you believe.
Excellent.
So yeah.
Great. I love it. And there are no right or wrong answers unless, like I say, be impeccable with your word. What does that mean? And you're like, fish. That really doesn't make sense. So that's not the right answer. But if you are impeccable with your word, your answer will be true to what this kind of concept is for you. Okay, so excellence, being true to one's word, make your word have its impact, make it stand in its meaning. Excellent. Anything else? Who else wants to add to this? We are creating a cultural knowledge within the group that we have formed today, right? Within your leadership academy, these are the things that, you know, at some point down the road, someone may turn to you and say, hey, I don't think you're being impeccable with your word right now. And you'll, you know, come back to this workshop and all of it. Be careful. Ooh, this is good. Be careful with your words. Think about what you say. When you speak words out onto the world, they will tell a story of yourself. Being truthful.
Well, for me,
yeah, go ahead, Chancellor.
For me, it's not only a sense of being, you know, truthful or being honest. It's being honest to yourself as well, in a sense that, you know, whenever you speak something or you say or commit to anything, you're honest with yourself, knowing that it's who you are, what you're willing to do, what you are capable of doing, knowing yourself and knowing what you say actually stands for who you are and what you do.
It's like signing your name to it. Absolutely signing your name to it. You could be truth of wisdom enacted, being honest and coherent. Excellent. These are all really, really great. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I'm going to preface this by just saying part of this to me means if you are going to say something about someone, you better be ready to say it in front of them. That's being impeccable, right? It's not like you'll say one thing to that person, and then when they're out the door, you'll say something else. And this was something that I experienced while I was in graduate school. I was at a conference with some colleagues as graduate students, and there was one woman who we were all doctoral students and master's students, and she had been working with a young group of people at a high school, actually right up the street from where I now live. So I live in South Phoenix. And so she chose to work at this school that was, I would say 98% probably young people of color. And she was a white woman from Tucson. And one of the things that she kept saying, like, I don't understand why they sort of seem resistant to me. They don't really want to do the work. I'm having a hard time. I'm struggling. And, you know, this was something she was dealing with. And this, you know, so she wasn't in the room. We were in the hotel room of the conference, and she had gone to a session, and someone said something about this was what was happening with this woman. And I said, well, here's my honest, like, you know, opinion. She walks in there and she has facing out her engagement and diamond ring, you know, like her engagement diamond ring and her wedding ring, which is like 4 huge rocks. She comes from wealth. Her husband is a doctor. She comes from a very affluent family. And, a lot of it was like, we talked about, like, sometimes that's just off-putting when, when someone sees that and they're like, why do you have to flaunt that in my face? And she would always, dress like in these impeccable, like flawless outfits, and just be like, as if she were going to, like, I don't know, some kind of yacht club. And so there we were talking about this. And then she walked into the room. And I noticed that everyone all of a sudden was like, oh my God, we can't, like, shut up, don't say anything, because she just walked in. And she basically said, like, what are you guys talking about? And I was the only person to be brave enough to turn around and say, actually, you. She was like, what? I said, we're just talking about your site for your dissertation study. And, because you've been talking about how difficult it's been for you, we think that maybe there are some of the issues might be in the way you present yourself. And so we sat down and we had this long conversation. And the next time she went in, I have to say, she was adorable. Here's the thing. She didn't stop being a white person walking into a space of predominantly people of color, right? This is a Mexican neighborhood. But she wore sort of like, a plaid, kind of like a plaid shirt over her t-shirt, like a skirt, and then she had her hair in pigtails. She still looked white. There was nothing about her that was trying to pass as someone from this neighborhood. But she was no longer looking like someone coming out of a business conference room. She was looking more like she wanted to be at this high school. And it wasn't that she was trying to pose as anyone. And in that, when I read this book, I thought of that incident, and I thought, we all could have shut up, and we all could have just been like, we're not going to say that to her face. But the reality is, if you're going to say it behind someone's back, you need to be ready to say it in front of that person. Otherwise, you're not being impeccable with your word. Right? And it goes for the things you say about yourself. How many people have ever taken a selfie, looked at it, and been like, oh my goodness, I look awful? When you put out the words into the world, I look awful, you're not being impeccable with the words that are being layered on yourself. Flawless universalism. I've never heard this term. I need to look up this term. Flawless universalism. What does that mean?
That's like moral character. That's like all a thesis could be made out of, like theme versus theme.
I love this. You're going to send me in a whole new trajectory of doing workshops on flawless universalism. I'm very excited about this. So being impeccable with your word, again, also, wait, this guy. Okay, so here's the definition. I wanted us to create our own sort of like, what do we see it as? Now I can't see my, hold on. Here we go. I keep having to do this and I'm not sure why. I need my chat open. There we go. Okay. So here's the definition from the book, right? So in these workshops, like for us to create our own understanding from our own personal experience and our thoughts. So speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. It's a simple description of what this agreement means. Very simple. But how many of us feel like we practice this in our everyday lives? Not always, right? Maybe sometimes, but we're not always impeccable with our word. And if we choose to we can be more conscientious about this agreement. We can really make sure that when we, like, a lot of it is about thinking before we speak. How many of you have ever blurted something out and been like, oh, was that my outside voice?
I
Oops.
do that every day, but I don't take it back. If I'm saying it, I'm saying it. I'm sorry.
If you're
I
impeccable
can't
with
help
your
it.
word, sure. If you're impeccable and that is what you would say no matter what, but sometimes I'm like, let me think, how is this going to make this person feel? Okay, I'm not going to say it because it will hurt them. And
I guess I'm mean then, because I don't know. I like people to know the truth. I don't know. Call me mean. Just certain things they gotta hear it because I honestly feel like some people be lying to people. I'm just like, I'm gonna just tell you the truth. I don't have time to do this little dance around with you. I'm gonna tell you what it is. Some people need that hard truth.
but also, it sounds like what you're saying is you do it with integrity, right? That it's not
Yeah.
like you're lying to someone, you're telling them how you feel. And if they don't like it, they can choose not to like it. Do you see what I'm saying? It's about like the opposite of that would be like if you just like went around telling people awful things all the time and didn't actually believe the things you were saying. Do you see what I mean? Do you see the difference between that?
Yeah.
But also like what I want you to also think about is like when you call yourself mean, that's also not being impeccable with your word, because unless that doesn't make you feel bad about yourself.
Oh no, I don't feel bad. It's just some people said, like I said, because some people feel like, to sugarcoat things. I don't have time to sugarcoat. So they're like, oh, that's mean. I'm like, no, if you sit down and really think about it, it is what it is. And I can't hold my tongue with certain things. Certain things just like they say, like they call it the little white lies, where you just try to not say things that hurt people's feelings, and you do that underlying thing. Certain things just like, no, you have to give it straightforward.
Well, and the little white lie would not be being impeccable with your word because it's still a lie. So I think this agreement is really, I love that you are all digging in so deep to this. This is awesome. I think what you really, really just want to take away from this is subjective, right? Objectively, there are 4 agreements, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Subjectively, they all mean different things to different people. So I'm not like giving you a formula of how to live life. I'm giving you 4 overall statements with definitions to have you think about how it is that you walk in the world. And, the person who's been speaking, I'm not sure who it is because I can't see. It doesn't like tell me who's actually talking when. So whoever was saying that, it's just a way to have you think about the choices you make when you use those words, because you can absolutely choose to not sugarcoat anything, say exactly what you mean at every given moment, and people's feelings have to just be what they are. And if that's you feeling that you are showing your integrity and not lying to anyone, then you have to negotiate that with yourself. I'm not telling you that that's wrong. That's not for me to judge. I'm not here to stand in judgment on anyone or how you take these agreements. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, now that was the first agreement. So at any point, if anyone has questions or anything, that I love that. Sometimes being harsh is being kind. Do you have an example of that?
So imagine that you have a coworker, right? Because they're the best because you're gonna be with them for a while. So you don't do it for somebody that you just meet and it's a one-off meeting. So let's say your coworker has this tick and they keep on tapping, right? They tap endlessly and it makes noise and it bothers you. Now you don't want to hurt his feelings, so you could just not say anything and allow this to go on endlessly. Or you can tell him, "Can you please stop doing that? Can you stop tapping? It's kind of, it's bothering me." Now it doesn't really matter the output of the coworker, because they might get angry, and I'll be like, oh, okay, thank you for telling me that. I'll stop that. Depending on the outburst, it might be productive, it might not be, but you have told them.
So
Even
here's
if it
what
could hurt their feelings, you've told them that that's bothering you, and can you please stop that?
but I'm going to reflect that back to you, Junior, because what you said is sometimes being harsh is being kind. In my opinion, I'm not sure you described something where you were being harsh. Being harsh is like, dude, stop the bleeping tapping because it is bleeping annoying me, and I'm going to bleeping get you bleeping fired
Oh
because
yes, I do
you're
that every
bleeping,
day, Monday
bleeping,
through
bleeping,
Friday.
bleeping.
Yes.
Well, the
That's being
reason I
harsh.
say the reason I said sometimes being, because sometimes it doesn't really matter our perspective. Like, from your perspective, I wasn't being very harsh. From the other person's perspective, I could have been the devil. So it
Possibly.
really,
That's a good objective versus subjective, right? That's a
yeah.
good explanation of what a subjective experience, or how that person experienced what you said completely objectively from subjectively from the way I did.
A common one every day. Excuse
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
sir. Can I offer you a mint? So you know that your breath stinks. And that
Like,
brings up the point of, it's not what you say, it's how you say it or how you deliver your message sometimes. That,
absolutely.
will determine whether or not you get it. Doesn't guarantee that they will receive it positively. But at the same time, at least you put it out there
Yeah.
for them to at least consider and address it at the end of the day. It's not about you being admired or liked or appreciated. It's about literally saying what you mean and meaning what you say, and
Yep.
letting that carry itself.
Nice. I like that example. I like those. I mean, these are all really good examples about, how sounds like a purity, the part of speak with integrity. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. These are all really important observations about exactly what we're talking about. Right? You can say something in a very mean way, but we're part of the 4 agreements. There's another agreement that I think will help us unpack a little of this a little bit more. Like what Junior said about, I may have seen it as not harsh, but that person may have taken it very personally and been very offended about just the asking of the not tapping, right? There are different ways for you to, and sometimes a lot of it is about knowing your target audience. Who is it that you're talking to?
So some people are more sensitive to certain things and speeches and how you deliver it.
Yep.
So that's the thing. So you may think and especially it comes with tone. So you can be saying in a calm tone and respectful tone and delivering it a certain way. And then just like they don't catch on that, you're being genuine in a sense. And they feel like you're attacking them as opposed to, like trying to be nice about it.
Excellent. A lot of this is going to come up in one of the other agreements. So continue to think about being impeccable with your word as we work through some of the other agreements. Other questions, comments, thoughts about how this plays out in your everyday life?
Well, with me, I'm always stuck with work. I know every time I come on these things, I'm always saying I'm at work. But it's just like me in work. I get tired of them asking me to stay at work for 13 hours Monday to Sunday, knowing I have a kid. And I always say, how may I not help you every time they call me to come in? And they still like, oh, it's fine. You can come to work. It's just like the deliverance is not there, no matter how mean I am.
I think every one of these agreements, you are going to have amazing things to say. I think these are going to you're going to help us unpack a lot of this, I think. I really do. Okay, this is the one that I think a lot of this is going to kind of evolve into. I want all of you to say this to yourselves. Just say it out loud. Easy to do? Nope. This is probably the hardest one. This is definitely, I think, the hardest one of all of them. I can agree with this unless someone is attacking your character. Now, here's what I'll say. If someone is attacking your character, someone else feels the need to speak negatively about you. Who does that say more about, you or them?
Them.
Yep, that is correct.
Well, I say that depends, really.
Okay.
So, like, if there are enough people attacking your character, like, there's something wrong with you, God, man. Like, can you calm down? You're always rowdy and stuff, and you can take that a certain way. Unless they don't really know you, and then they're attacking your character, like, whoa, you don't know me, you've never known me. How can you have enough forbearance to attack my character like that?
Or you can just
So
do one thing and then they just judge you based upon that,
that's what I
not
mean.
knowing the true you.
Let me
Uh,
try to dissect this a bit. So instead of it being more or less of it being taken personally, because there are some things that are personal to you, but never take it as a personal attack. Right. Whereas, and it could be directed in that sense as an attack, but as long as
Maybe.
you are okay with your character and who you are, regardless, even if it were an attack, more or less, you know yourself to know whether or not it applies to you. So there's no need for you to take it in as an attack on from that person. Everyone has their own ideals, or everyone has whatever personal feelings they have towards what they say, but that doesn't mean that you have to own their feelings. You only own yourself and what you're responsible for.
Thoughts? That was so eloquent.
I like
I
that
agree.
last bit that you said with the own your own feelings, that bit right there. That, yeah.
I'm gonna sit here and just
totally
not worry
agree.
about the future because you guys are all so awesome.
No,
I
I
feel like
totally agree with
when
Chancellor. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
go ahead, June.
Oh, okay, I'll finish. I was like, I totally agree with Chancellor. I'm like, this is one of the reasons why I chose my words wisely and said like a group of people. When I said if they like, because if there are multiple people attacking your character, I think you should sit back, assess who you are. Look at the things you do, look at your ticks. Because I think sometimes self-evaluating is always good. You don't take anything personal, because it's still not, you're not taking it personal. You're just sitting back and seeing if you can evolve from the feedback that you've been given, even if it's mean, right? Even if it's mean, sitting back and assessing what you've been given, because all they're doing is trying to make you better, right? They're trying to make you better in some way. They feel that there's something wrong with you, so they're telling you something. And I
Not
mean,
all
like,
the time, Junior.
I say, like, I know not all the time, but I'm just saying that like, if you understand that they're not coming from a malicious standpoint,
Here's
like,
the thing, sometimes they are. Sometimes
I
they're
know they
absolutely
are.
coming from a malicious, mean-spirited,
And even
angry
if they
place.
are, because once you sit
And what
back
we have
and
to do,
uh, uh,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, once you sit back and self-evaluate, you can choose whether to listen to them or not. So
Sure. And what I love is how you're actually defining this by saying it doesn't mean don't listen to anyone, don't listen to anything anyone else says. It means don't let it injure you personally. That if you can self reflect, and if someone calls you a liar, that's pretty mean. And you know in your heart you've never uttered falsehoods, then you don't have to take that personally. What you might want to do is think about whether or not that person is being impeccable with their word. And wonder, oh, wow, did they get up on the wrong side of the bed that they have to feel so mean today? Because when you say negative things into the world, those negative things that are leaving your mouth, they affect like your own health, right? Constantly being negative affects a person's health. Do you see what I mean? Like, so really it's often not about you, it's about the way that other person's day is going and how they're seeing the world, and that they're trying really desperately to like make that. So have you ever heard the saying, why do you got to burn out my candle to make yours burn brighter? Right? You don't have to. Your candle can have a flame and my candle can have a flame, and they both are fire, right? Neither one is brighter or bigger. We can both exist in the same, campfire, so to speak. When someone talks negatively about you, it's more about them and the negativity that they're carrying and releasing into the world. So when we go back to the example, when you said, hey, my friend, my colleague from work, can you do me one favor? Like, I'm trying to concentrate and you keep doing this. And that's making me not be able to focus. So do you think maybe you might try to just be more conscious of it and maybe not tap, right? Which again, is very different from being like, bleep, 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 bleaking, bleak. Because that's mean, and that's you releasing a lot of negativity into your own bloodstream. And then that person also feels bad. But, if that person has read the 4 agreements or taken my workshop, they're going to be like, it's not about me. It's about you and you not being able to focus. So I'm going to definitely try and stop tapping. But it's not about me personally. I'm not going to take it as an insult, because really, Junior, you didn't insult the person. They may take it as that. But again, part of what we're looking at here in the personal agreements is the 4 agreements. You can't make anyone else live by them. You have to choose the way you walk in the world, not the way anyone else does. Does that make sense? So you can apply these to your life without ever telling anyone that you're applying them to your life. So let's take a look. Anyone else have anything to kind of create our understanding of what never take anything personally means? I see that Suprina says that it is absolutely not possible. It's not possible to never take anything personally. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And so why do you feel that way?
Me personally, I know that I can admit I'm very sensitive.
Okay.
But I think more so it's when people say things to you and, oh God, I'm trying to put it in the right words.
When they say it in a negative way, like in a mean-spirited way.
Yeah, like how can you not take it personal? I mean, you may eventually, I feel like you'll get over it, but in that very moment that it was said, that it was typed, that it was text, that however you received it, in that moment, you're gonna take it personal. Now,
and
how
so,
you move on from it, you may not dwell on it for a long period of time, but in that moment, you're gonna take it personal. It's gonna affect you.
It stings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love
practice.
What, Chancellor?
It's called practice.
Well, exactly, right? We have to rehearse for the way that we want to live in the world. I'm a theater person. I rehearse every day. But I think what you've said is so important about the what happens next, right? Maybe in the moment there's a sting and you're like, oh my goodness, did that person just say that about me? But if you're able to step back and realize and kind of tease it out of what it is. Is it about you? Is it about the person who's just having a bad day? Is it about, and when we get to the end of this workshop, you will see the whole idea about energy vampires. And we'll talk a lot about energy vampires and how they blow out your candles so that theirs will burn brighter. And there are some energy vampires that we can't not have in our lives. Because I can tell you this, sometimes your best friend can be an energy vampire. Your mom can be an energy vampire. Are you going to get rid of them? No, you're not going to get rid of them, but you're going to learn how to deal with it. And Sabrina, you said it exactly right. If you can step back in the moment, ouch, but then think, is that really about me? Or is that person really having all of this negativity in them? And you can walk away from it feeling like, I'm not going to play into that negativity. I'm not going to let that person blow out my candle so that theirs can burn brighter. So I'm not going to deny that, we are human beings and we have emotions and we have feelings. But you really hit it on the head when you talked about the processing of that you took so personally and allowing it not to be as stinging to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know Twin hit it on the head for me because I literally just went through this a month ago. A person that never hung out with me, but maybe 2 or 3 times, sent me this long paragraph DM after she blocked me on Instagram and told me that I am selfish, self-centered, and a narcissist. Words that has never been used against me ever. And in the moment that I read it, I literally cried because I was like, somebody in this world truly thinks that about me. I'm not selfish towards anybody. And she said it not even knowing the situation of the things that happened that weekend that we had hung out. So it took me like literally a whole 24 hours to calm down, relax, and just was like, I know that's not me. And for whatever reason she feel that way, that's fine. You know what? That's her. We don't ever have to see each other, speak to each other, or be around each other ever again. And that's the way I want it.
And there are some people who you don't need in your life. And you can make those choices, right? We have free will. I love what Sonia Jo just said. Knowing self plays a vital role in how you handle criticism. So, Sabrina, you basically said, like, I know I'm not selfish. With that person, if they felt the need to hurt your feelings by calling you that, who's the selfish one?
Right.
It's obviously them. But, I think you have handled it so gracefully, truly gracefully, and just, made the decision in your life of like, I'm not going to allow myself to be treated like that. If that person has that negativity and doesn't want to put positivity into my world, they don't need to be in my world.
May I elaborate on what Sabrina said?
Yeah, of course.
So I believe it's important to understand that the way we react to malice or any negative comment can be a projection of the way we see, literally Sonia said, the way we see ourselves or like our insecurities or anything around that nature. So, it's important to really self-evaluate in that moment and understand why you're feeling that way and why you felt the need to react the way you did.
It's all about the processing of the feeling. I think what Sabrina also said in terms of like in the moment, right? It's very hard for someone to say something so awful to your face and it not to hurt. Of course you hurt. Of course you're human. Of course that is difficult to hear. But it's about how you choose to deal with it. It's about the delivery of your word. It's about you being impeccable with your word to yourself, even about the experience of how you, again, walk in this world and how you allow other people to treat you.
It's almost like that mean girl effect, like piggybacking, like going to school itself, like when you have the popular girls bullying on the other population of the school, not knowing what they're going through and how, their day and their environment is. And it's actually the mean girls who actually have the worst things going on, and they're portraying that and putting that on everybody else just to make themselves feel better.
So often, the bullies who you encounter are being severely bullied from someone else in their lives. And it is almost like you have to really consider, like, where is their negativity coming from? And sometimes, right, you just have to, if someone's going to bully you, you might need to cut them out of your life. If you are unable to reach them and have the sort of conversation that would, if you don't have time for that, and I don't fault anyone for not having time to try and, reason with a bully, but there's almost like send positive vibes their way anyway, because you're better than their bullying ways, and maybe in some other aspect of their life, they're getting bullied severely that makes them lash out in that way. Do we want to see what the book says about never taking anything personally? Now that we've sort of formed our own understanding of what it means. Oh, wait, we got to go back. Don't read that. So, nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream, the world that they live in, basically. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering. So I think, as Sabrina has said, the suffering is real. We can have that suffering, but if we can really think about it, step away from the situation and really think about it, we can release and relieve our own suffering, the needless suffering, which would be to absolutely feel the negativity for the next 6 weeks. Because I will tell you that negativity that causes hypertension or high blood pressure, right? There are physical effects of negativity on our lives and our bodies.
The number one, like depression.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes, right? I mean, and depression is absolutely real, and it's tangible, and it can be paralyzing. It can be absolutely paralyzing for some people. And the first step to dealing with depression is being able to talk about it out loud with people. Being able to voice how you are feeling. I do a lot of work with theater, and there are different techniques of theater that allow people who are dealing with all sorts of anxiety, depression. It allows them to tell their story through other people, to and through other people, and watch sort of as a spectator and really think about how they deal with those kinds of feelings. I really wish I was, living in New York again, so I could come up and just hang out with all of you. And, I wish we weren't in the middle of a global pandemic and we could do workshops that use those types of theater. For now, when Jason invited me back, I was like, we have to do something that is something we could do online and really have it just be something we can talk about. I'm usually not the person who puts a PowerPoint up on the screen, right, Jason? What am I usually doing? I toss the world ball around we walk, we play theater games, and then we unpack them and we talk about what happens in the theater game that is a metaphor for the way that we walk in the world, how we live our lives. So does anyone have anything else to say about not taking anything personally, in that we've kind of created our own understanding about how we are teasing this idea out, right? Anyone else? So that was number 2. Let us move to what you already saw the last time I forwarded the slide and didn't mean to. Don't make assumptions. What does this mean to all of us?
That famous quote, don't assume or you make a fool of yourself. So lightly putting it.
So that's very politely putting it. Can anyone think of a time when they may have made an assumption about something and then it was totally wrong? Like they realized that that is not how it appeared to me at first glance.
Well, not me. I had like a patient come in and she had to register her child. We have like a lot of cultures, you know, everybody's mixed, all these parents, all these kids. That's fine. I just asked her, can you register your child? She was just standing there looking at me because I don't know this patient. So I'm just like, does the kid, look Chinese and the child looks, African American, and the mom came, she's African American. There's no dad. So I'm just like, just go register. And she's looking at me. I said, well, are you the babysitter? Are you the nanny? Are we waiting for the mom to come? Did you bring the kid, And she's just like still standing there. Then she's like, after like 10 minutes of like going back and forth with her, trying to figure out and just to tell her to register this kid, she goes, I'm the mom and you're racist because you thought this kid wasn't mine. I'm like, the first thing I freaking said to this lady was register your kid. How am I racist? And she wrote her report and sent a whole email to the doctor I work with. She's a whole racist. She's a this, she's a that. She assumed my kid wasn't my kid because he looks different than me. I'm like, okay, this is great. Yeah. But the kicker with that is I have a lazy eye. So when she's seen me again after all this went down, I've been at my job 5 years. So a whole year later, she sees me and she looks at me like, wow, your eye looks different from last time. Did you have eye surgery? I'm just like, it's funny how you call me a racist and you come to me in my face. And, me having my lazy eye, strabismus, I've been dealing with, since I was little. And it's just like me having the whole mean people since kindergarten, even now. It's just like, how dare you think this is an appropriate conversation? So and she's like, she was like, no disrespect or anything. She's just like, I just noticed your eye is different. I'm like, my eye is no different from the first time that you saw me. But I guess she assumed, being the fact that when she came in the first time and was in La La Land and thought I was racist, she paid it no mind.
Excellent example. Excellent example. And I love sort of how, there are a lot of things where we just have to sort of step back and be like, this is the objective story that I'm telling, right? This is something that happened to me.
Yeah, I paid her no mind, but it's just like everybody knows in my office that I'm so nice, but once you make me mad, I can turn into like, even my boss knows. I'm the one. Do not mess with Danielle. So when she said that, everybody looked at me like, oh my gosh, what is she going to tell this patient? I was like, I was cool about it. I paid her, I said, laughed it off. It's no problem, But deep down inside, just my blood was boiling. Boy, I tell you. It was like, this is the same lady that just called me a racist, not like last year. I'm confused. And she wants to sit here and have a conversation with me. And out of all things, about my appearance of my eye. But she had a problem with the appearance of saying that I was a racist.
Wow. Yeah, it can be difficult when people sort of lash out. And then, I think you keeping your composure really, shows a lot about the first 2 agreements too, right? Like you were impeccable with your word. you know that in the first instance you didn't say anything wrong, with what you were saying. You were asking questions because you weren't making assumptions. Like, you didn't just say like, oh, you must be this kid's nanny. You asked the question instead of making the assumption.
Correct.
Other
Yes.
experiences people have had.
I my experience was it was in school when the pandemic first happened, and I was in class, and I might have said something that was offensive, but I didn't know that I said something offensive. And I remember my professor of the class wrote me a letter, an email, saying that I had I was prejudiced and how I offended her and students in the class. And it upset me because I wasn't trying to be, prejudiced or racist. I was just stating a fact about something when she was teaching the class. And I noticed that since I've been in school, people are very sensitive about their race. And I know I'm an older student, and I know the language has changed when you talk about, biracial, black, Latinos. It's all these different words now.
Language
When
evolves, yeah.
it's a lot of different languages, and it's like now I just sit back and I just be quiet because I don't know how to talk to people now because I'm kind of scared to say anything because I don't want to offend anybody. And I remember that email and it upset me so much because I'm an African American woman. I'm trying to get along with everybody.
Right.
And it really hurt me when that teacher the professor wrote me that email. It hurt me, it scared me because I felt that she put me in a situation that if someone who think they know me think I'm prejudiced, they can hurt me. And it's, just being labeled as being prejudiced, that is not good. So that offended me. And I didn't, to this day, it's like, I just stay quiet sometimes on certain issues because I don't want to offend anybody. But I know when I was growing up, we used different wording. We communicated much nicer. It seemed like now it's like you could just say whatever you want and it's just out there. And whether you hurt the person's feeling or you don't, it's okay. And I remember when I was growing up, there was like certain things you just didn't say. And like I said, I just stay quiet now because I don't know what a person is thinking anymore. I don't know how to express myself without being labeled as being prejudiced.
So
And
I think, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were, yeah.
and like I said, I don't even know what I said. So it was like, how can I how can you correct me if I don't know what I said? And I don't even know what I said if it was prejudice. I just know that when she wrote me the email and it shocked me because it was in the beginning of the pandemic. We had just started doing the Zoom video.
Mhm.
And I wasn't into tech, being technical. And it's like I was seeing a lot of things going on. People was writing, people was talking, and I was trying to, make my point. But like I said, I know the first time I said something, she shut down the website. And then the second time I said something, she shut it down. And that's when I got the email. And I was like, um,
And the professor didn't specify in the email like what it was that you said?
nope, nope, nope. She just said that I said something that was president and offended her and offends people in the class. And I was just, you know, it upset me so bad that I had to tell my success coach about it. I had to show her the email that, like I said, it was scary at the time when it happened because no one wants to be labeled as being prejudiced. I don't
Or
care what race that you come from, you know. And my situation, when I was talking to my success coach, I said, where I live at, this could get me killed by, being labeled as being prejudiced. And like I said, I'm speaking about it now because it bothers me because I don't know how to talk to people anymore without saying something that might offend them. Or I think what I'm saying is okay, but the other person who I'm talking to
right.
might be thinking that I'm saying something offensive or prejudiced. It's like I don't know how to talk to people anymore. So I just stay quiet. But it is scary now to talk to people and not saying they're offended, or you might think that you're saying something that's okay and they'll go somewhere and say something else. So I usually just stay quiet because I don't get it anymore. I don't.
So we have some people who've raised hands. I'm assuming that you have responses to this
Yeah.
experience. So yeah, go ahead.
I can truly I can feel you there, 'cause I think I understand that language evolves, but I think there should be like a something that some type of guidebook, right? Like, okay, so these are the things I can and can't say. These are like at least a list. That there used to be that, right? At least there used to be a list that okay, I know I shouldn't cross this line. I know that these are things that I shouldn't say because they're mean. But
But
there isn't that anymore. It's not like that
but
anymore,
here's the
and
thing: who has the right to
no one
write
does.
that list? If there's a list, who gets to decide? And I'm just going to give you an example. When I was teaching in Boston, right, in
Yeah,
one class, I had a very diverse spectrum of age range of people in that class. So there were people who were already in their 60s and they were grad students, and there were people who were fresh out of college, so they were like in their 20s. And there was a couple of people in the class who were gay, and it was right around the time of the Pride Parade, and so one of the younger of the generation started to use the term queer and used it as just a word that they used to describe themselves, that they would say, I'm queer, right? And one of the men who was over 60 said, I'm just going to be very honest with you, that is a term, that is a word that makes my skin crawl, because when I was growing up and gay and coming out, the idea of the negativity used in that word was so scarring to me that I hear young people use it in a positive tone and I can't get on board. So for one person, the word queer is empowering, and for another person, it's the biggest insult that they've ever had thrown at them. So, when we talk about people's perspectives, different language means, right? There are people who use the N word as an endearing kind of like, hey, my friend. And then there are people who, see it as one of the most offensive words in the history of words. So it depends on, like who gets to say what the bad words are and what the good words are. There's really no list that can come from the whole world. So it's all subjective.
I know that, but I'm like, there are things you can say that obviously will. Oh well, they can go to other people and be like, oh well, I'm a gatherer of the community. This other person said something. Let's. I'm referring to cancel culture, by the way. Like, I think that if you're going to say, okay, so that's hateful. I was like, okay, then put it on your list, please. Even if it's subjective, because I think we still need some standards. Like, we have rules for law, and they should then and well, they're not anymore, but they used to be very concrete with certain things. Like there are certain things you just can't do. And even if something evolves, like the rules evolve, everything does. But I think there should be, a standard of, okay, I kind of understand this is I can't do this, because if they evolve, certain people won't be able to catch up, and then
Well, I think
those type of things happen.
that's what
That
Danielle was saying,
yeah,
right? She feels
because
silenced because she doesn't know the current language. But one of the sort of part of the role of communication in the way that we interact in the world is this very thing. Don't make assumptions. The questions are the gate openers, right? If you say, instead of saying something that, or if you preface what you're going to say with, I am not intending to offend anyone, and if by any chance something I say does offend someone, I would be very open to having a conversation and learning. Oh, sorry, that was Kim. Kim, that was your story? Okay, thank you.
Yes, yes.
But the idea, thanks, Kim. I get all of these boxes confused. That the idea of like, look, and even to say, like, I have experience in the past where I've said something and it offended someone, but that person wasn't necessarily willing to help me learn from what I did not mean any intention of malicious, malice or anything like that. I still to this day don't understand what I said that offended someone. And I don't want to be silent. So I want to enter the conversation, but I'm open to learning if anything that I say, right? And this is something that I often start workshops or classes with these kinds of contracts with students, right? Like company rules for the theater company that we have. There are high school theater teachers that I've known who have used the term wombat, WOMBAT. I'm going to put it in the chat. Wombat. And then what that means is, hold on. When offensive material becomes a threat. So in some of these high school classes in Massachusetts, someone might say like, oh, that's so gay. How many of you have ever said the words, oh, that's so gay, or heard someone else say the words, oh, that's so gay? For some people, that is very offensive. And that would go on a list if ever there was a list, right? But
yeah.
there are people who think like, oh, that's not bad. I'm just saying blah, 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 blah. I've said that, but only with my I love that. So the whole idea is if someone wants to say like wombat in the class, they can say it and everyone understands that something that was said offended them. And then the teacher can help kind of pull it apart and they can talk about what it was. Was it Tanya Joe who raised their hand first?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
great. And
ma'am.
it's like keeps coming up. You have been so patient as we talk. Please join the conversation because you've made some great comments in the chat too.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just want to piggyback off what Kim said. I do have that same struggle today. I was recently penalized for one of my papers for using the word mankind. And it's it was so hurtful to the point where I felt like I was being attacked. I didn't know the correct choice of words to use, and I lost about 5 points, I believe, for using that term. And it was so scary for me that I had to reach out to the counseling department and be like, okay, I'm in tears because I don't understand. I spent all this time to write this paper, and the professor is saying that I can't use the word mankind. The correct word is humankind, and I'm told that I'm using words that are white supremacist. Now, I respect everyone. I respect their stance, but I do believe that the same respect that I give is the same respect that I deserve. So I don't have it's not fair. I don't think it's fair that, okay, we know that the world is evolving and things are changing, but please give us a chance to change. Do not penalize us because we don't understand or know better. Give us that space.
I think
that's pretty much what I wanted to say.
There are a lot of educators who see being an educator as being a gatekeeper, that they get to stand in front of the gate and keep it closed so that you don't get in, right? And instead of reading your paper and writing feedback or a comment in a positive way, not a negative way, right? To say, maybe here a better word choice might be humankind to represent a broader population, right? And then explain, when you say mankind, some people might perceive that as you omitting everyone else who's not male, right? Which was not your intention. Your intention was probably in the paper, meaning humankind, but in the paper that you were writing, you just wrote mankind, and it wasn't like you were trying to offend or leave out anyone. And the difficulty is the professor who graded you felt a negativity, and instead of having the dialogue, they sort of put up a closure and was like, you're not getting past me now. And that is, when people are in education to do that, I have no respect for those educators. I don't think that they're in this for the right reason. They're in this to penalize and to punish and to make people feel not intelligent. And Junior, you were saying before something about like laws are, written in the certain, like laws protect, I can't remember what it was you said, that laws exist. Laws
exist, and they used to be concrete, and it's like the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments. Now you can be like, oh well, I can infer this, but you're like, okay, it really says that.
Like, now here's the thing: the Ten Commandments that you're talking about. Do you know what language they were written in originally?
Hebrew, if I'm correct.
Possibly Aramaic. Actually, not even Hebrew, Aramaic. And so what we have as an English translation that has been translated and translated and translated and translated is not exactly what was said. I mean, in the world that I work in theater, right, there's a play called A Doll's House. It was written in 1879 by a Norwegian playwright. So the original title, many scholars have said, like, A Doll's House doesn't even come close to the actual original Norwegian, which has a much different connotation and makes much more sense when you read the play and you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, that's what it meant. I see. Jason says, college is supposed to be an educational environment and a place to take some risks and learn from your mistakes without being penalized. If only every educator in the world embraced this. Okay, wait, someone else had their hand up. The J that's blue, I want you to contribute to this conversation. Who are you? Jason, tell me who.
It was Shanique.
Shanique.
I'm sorry, Sharik. Yes.
Sharik.
Sharik Byron.
Did you have your hand raised? Okay, no longer. Do you want to speak? Or do you want to put something in the chat too? Okay, if you want to add to the conversation, please do so again. Okay. Other thoughts, right? I think what's beautiful about this, and I'm so excited because, again, I'm working on writing a chapter for a book about teaching acting specifically to Latino students in higher education. And using these agreements on how do we use this with acting, right? When we say, don't take anything personally, sometimes being an actor is one of the most vulnerable positions you can put yourself in, because you put on a character and, you know, people judge you, and then you're like, but and it's not about you personally, it's about the way that you are interpreting a character that's fictitious, or maybe based on a historical character, or based on someone in the real world. But the acting is what's being judged, not you personally. So that's part of, you know, how I've been teasing this out. And so much of what you're all saying today is making me think about all of these things all over again in a whole new light. So like every time I do a workshop at Hostos, it's also like I learn 10 times more than anyone else in the room. Other thoughts about don't make assumptions before we go to the book description of what don't make assumptions means. Yeah, Chancellor.
Oh, I talk a lot.
I love
it. I will say that in the making assumptions, sometimes we are already making an assumption or preconceiving an assumption at the moment that people are speaking and trying to communicate something. It's one of those things I also have to practice as well, is learning to actively listen and completely listen to what they're trying to say or communicate before conveying or allowing your mind to actually put together that assumption. Because sometimes a mental assumption could, you know, sometimes it could really like manifest into something bigger or something like completely out of context from what the other person was saying, and we haven't even spoken or, you know, are allowed for the whole conversation to actually play out or whatever they're trying to say. So yeah, we should also be aware of those mental assumptions and learn to just listen.
There's an amazing exercise that I do that always leaves people sort of speechless. And it's called the compassionate listening exchange. And the compassionate listening exchange, you might want to try this with someone. What it is you sit with someone facing them and you allow them to speak for like an entire minute. You can even try 2 minutes, but you basically, you're not allowed, while that person is speaking, you're not allowed to make facial gestures. You're not allowed to nod your head. You're not allowed to, you know, nod your head either way, positive or negative. You just have to sit there and listen. And by the end of the 1 minute, people are so uncomfortable because we're human and we do this. Like, this is how we are socialized to, you know, how many of you sit in your classes and you nod as the professor talks, right? Or you're like, right? And all of these show the listener your opinions before you even opened your mouth. Right? If you're nodding yes, it's that you are in agreement and it's a positive reflection. If you nod your head no, the person already sees that you don't agree with them. And as Chancellor's saying, you're already thinking about how what they're saying is affecting your next thing that come out of your mouth. You stopped listening to them like 10 seconds ago because you're forming your opinion and you've stopped listening to them. So the compassionate listening exchange allows you to really get into your body of, one, how uncomfortable it is to not react, but sometimes how necessary it is to not react and just let that person speak and just listen, right? And all of those assumptions that you make, instead of just being the ears, you're not listening to the person. That's such a, you know, and then I say to people, a compassionate listening exchange is an exercise to do in a classroom or a workshop. Don't do it on the bus. People will think you are weird. They'll be like, are you okay? Are you on something? Right? Like, they just want to understand why you're sitting there like, And what it is I also tell people, you have to look at the person. You're like, it's a lot easier for some people to just be like this. And they say like, I'm not nodding my head, I'm not, but you're not looking at them. So it's a tough exercise. But again, it is not about doing it on the bus at all. Okay, so Junior says, we're no longer hunters and gatherers, and it is apparently good for the human brain to explore and learn from that exploration. The exploration can also be dangerous and allow you to temper yourself. We can't do that anymore. We aren't as barbaric as we were in the past. So instead, we do it with our minds and ourselves. This is the original intentions of the universities. Go explore the unknown and do dangerous things so that you may learn from them without recourse. This is, the pursuit of knowledge. Now we have this whole like, you need to be graded. Really, to me, I say to my students at the beginning of the semester, like, you can have an A in this class. I have no problem with giving you an A. I have spelled out in the syllabus what you need to do to get that A. And every step along the way, I will give you feedback on your work. And if you don't like the grade you've got, work with me. We'll raise your grade. I will absolutely partner with you to do that. I think one student took this too far, because last night I got a text from one student who's like, I need help from you writing my paper. I'm like, no. You need to write the paper. Then I will take a look at it. And then we'll work together to, and there's so much of a reality in the way that I work with students. I was at a different college when I first moved back to Arizona, and there was a student from Nigeria. And he came to me after I was teaching Introduction to Cinema. And he came to me and he said, before I came to this country, I'd never seen a movie before. So like we're working in this sort of like field, this discipline that I've not got a lot of exposure to. So I just want to tell you that. And I was like, that's really good information to have as the context of, so here's the steps to write the paper, and you watch the movie, and then, you have an opinion about it. And there are certain things that you are going to analyze. And I said to him, would it be, and I was like, would it be easier for you to write the paper in your own language and then use Google Translate? He's like, Miss, I speak an indigenous language that they don't have in Google Translate. That's, and his English was good, but he knew that for writing papers, it was not the best. And I said, then would you feel more comfortable, instead of writing the paper and feeling that you're struggling with the English, would you feel more comfortable coming to my office and sort of talking through your responses with me in my office? And we'll use that as the basis of, like, you could have written all of those responses, but if we just have a conversation. And it changed, I will tell you, probably no other professor in his life will ever do that with him and allow for that, right? I had students when I was teaching in Boston who simply they'd never really been taught to write properly. And so I would grade their papers and I would say, come to my office or record your thoughts about this play instead of writing it, because their thoughts flow better in speech than they do in writing. And I created parameters for, if you want to submit a paper as an audio file of you talking, it has to have these certain parameters, right? You have to be talking for this long, which is the equivalent of reading a paper of that length. But people learn differently. And that's why we need to teach differently, I believe. Does that make sense?
An inspiration to my future as a teacher.
Excellent. Excellent. I love that. What grade do you want to teach? Do you want to teach K through 12 or do you want to teach college?
I actually, I hadn't fully decided. I figured I would start in the public education field, and then consider the ideal of higher level education.
Sure. That's awesome. Excellent. All right, let's take a look at what don't make assumptions means to Don Miguel Ruiz. I'm going to move some stuff on my screen. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. I love me a good drama. I'm a theater person, but keep it on the stage, right? With just this one agreement, you can completely transform your life. So I think, Kim, this talks a lot too about like your story in terms of asking beforehand and just, prefacing. Because what you said in this workshop was so eloquent in terms of like, I did not have any malice in what I said. I don't even know what I said that was so offensive. And I feel that now I just have to be quiet. When, like, I, hearing that, just want you to never be quiet, because the sheer knowledge that you have, as you said, and you're an older African-American woman, your experience bringing that to the table in any classroom brings texture and richness that the students won't have if you don't open your mouth.
Thank you for saying that. I don't think I'm gonna be quiet anymore. Thank you.
I love it. I want you to take class with me. And just going back to the chat.
I wish I
Yes.
can take class with you. I used to do drama and theater. I used to perform a lot myself. Mine is like poetry and like acting, like writing and stuff, but my major is forensic science. So funny how
Wow.
those two turned out. I can write, but I don't want to, as a major, I'm good.
Wow. Forensic science. That is fascinating. So, part of this, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the book Lies My Teacher Taught Me. Anyone who wants to go into education should take a look at, a lot of the things that are taught. But also we have to go back to the whole idea that everything is subjective, right? Like, is anyone in the workshop from the South? Everyone's
No,
from the
no,
North.
well,
Florida.
no. My mother was raised down south, but I was raised up here. I've been told that I have an accent from down south, but I know some of my upraising is very strict. It's like we supposed to be proper. We say thank you and welcome and please and we're just taught to have manners.
Right.
We're taught that you having manners is a good thing, because that means that, well, this is what I thought. Having manners is good, because if you have manners, and it'll just make your life more easier. I usually say to myself, when you're in a public place and it's crowded and you're saying excuse me, pardon me and stuff, you're letting that person know that, yes, I know that I'm in your personal space, but I'm here to let you know that I acknowledge you being there. But at this present time, I have to be in your personal space. So that's why I'm saying excuse me and pardon me.
So you remind me. Go ahead. I love this. This.
That's why I'm saying excuse me and pardon me, or I'm saying thank you, because you gave me good service. And I'm letting you know that even though I might have gave you money, I appreciate that you gave me the service that you're giving me.
Absolutely.
Or if you say please, um, please pass this. I'm just asking you in a nice way of passing something to me. That's it. But I notice now that people don't say that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's like, Like I
What you
said,
reminded me of was when people say, "Excuse me, can I sneak by you?" My response has become very stock. No, you cannot. Sneaking by me implies that I don't know you're there, but you just announced to me that you are going to be there. So you killed it for yourself when you said it. If you had snuck by me, I would have never known you were there. So, no, you're incapable now of sneaking by me. Use it. It's fun. People are like, what? Okay. I love, so from the South, I wanted to follow up with that. We had a civil war in this country. Did we not?
Yes,
Many
we did.
years
Yes.
back. We
Yes.
did.
yes.
And in the South, do you know what the Civil War is referred to as? Now, today, they may call it the Civil War, but because it's historic. But do you know what it was called? The War of Northern Aggression. Nothing civil about that, right? The South saw it very differently than what the North saw it as. So part of that is when we communicate, right? Like we all have to understand that we're all coming from different experiences, different lived experiences in our lives and in our education. All right, we only have like 13 minutes left in this workshop.
Well,
This
I'll say
one's
it really
pretty-
quickly
Yeah.
to, I guess, piggyback off of that. And I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, even though I
Uh-huh.
don't have it in my accent. That statement that you made about it being called the War of Northern Aggression is just a testament, in a sense, to the building of the Constitution, where the Second Amendment comes into play, and even the Second Amendment to this day is open-ended to the point where, once again, one perspective can challenge another person's perspective, and it's easy for somebody to be offended or feel like their Second Amendment is being trampled over in the case of someone else's.
I think, one of the things that we also have to really take into consideration when we examine all things about the Constitution is going back to what we were talking about the Bible, right? The Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, no matter what they say in the musical Hamilton, right? It was written by who?
White folks for the social.
Not white folks. Not white
No,
folks.
I was gonna say white. I was gonna say older.
Well, not necessarily. Alexander Hamilton was only like 19. Here's the thing. White,
George
male,
Washington. Okay.
educated landowners. No matter how white you were or how male you were, you didn't own land, you didn't get to sit at that table. So
Right.
we have to think about how all of the Constitution has evolved, but those original, right, the original sentiment there is, right, if you've seen Hamilton or heard the music, when Angelica Schuyler says, I'm going to convince Thomas Jefferson to put women in the sequel of the Constitution, right? Like, because women were not asked their opinions. No one who wasn't white was asked their opinion. So no one who didn't own land was asked their opinion. So there's there's so much about the evolution of that document in in the law, right? I had a friend, a student originally from Boston. I taught at Emerson College, and she went to 1 year of law school. White woman from Georgia. She went to 1 year of law school. And after that 1 year, she was a theater major when she was an undergrad. And she had a lot of ideas. After 1 year in law school, we had a long talk because she said, I am leaving law school because what I have discovered in just the 1 year that I've been here is that the laws of this country are written specifically to oppress women and people of color. And I can't be a party to that. I just can't do it. It was so depressing for me to read all of the things in the evolution of like history of law that it made it like I couldn't stomach it anymore. And she left. She couldn't do it. And now she's doing like spiritual healing of like in some kind of order, and it almost destroyed her. So,
And she
okay.
noticed she had to do a detour. It's always something like
Yeah.
that.
She's doing a really healthy detour for herself. Okay, 321. In Phoenix, Arizona, it's 321. I realize it's like 521 for all of you, and you're all hungry and you want to eat dinner. Always do your best. Now, this is one that I don't think we have to spend a lot of time unpacking, but basically, I think it also ties into all of the other ones. So we're going to talk about your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you are healthy as opposed to sick. Under any circumstances, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. It's just always putting your best foot forward, always doing things with integrity, right? So I want to use the last 10 minutes really to talk about, we were going to skip Wangari, and we're going to talk about energy vampires. This book is written by a friend of mine, Dr. Steve Ornelas, and his book is called Energy Vampires, Managing Stress and Negative Thoughts in Your Personal and Professional Life. Okay, so an energy vampire, we want to become mindful of the energy vampires in our lives. They will suck you dry if you let them. They will take all of your energy, and this is something very important. You have the right to teach people how to treat you. You need to, let people know what you're willing to accept and what you're not willing to accept. So this is what? Does anyone know what this is?
A black hole.
That is a black hole. It will suck the universe into it if allowed to, right? And it's not going to stop. It just continues to suck energy into the blackness, the hole right in the center. The energy is going straight and converting, right? And I'm not an astronomer. So here's what I want us to take a look at, because this is a very simple exercise that we can take a look at. Around where you are, you can pick up 3 things. Like, for instance, I can pick up 3 nail polishes where I am because I have a bucket of nail polish in front of me. You can also pick up 3 pens like I show on the screen. And you're just going to pick them up, right? And you're going to hold them in your hand. Now, I'm going to ask Jason to do this with me. So I'm going to ask Jason to put the what do you have there, Jason?
Glasses.
3 pairs of glasses. I love it. All right. I have 3 pens that are going to magically convert themselves into pairs of glasses when they go through the screen. Okay. So here, Jason is one of my dearest friends in the world. I absolutely adore Jason. Jason and I don't do this to each other, so don't think we do. But here's the example of what happens. It's a simple exercise. I am going to talk to Jason, and every time I sort of alleviate one of my problems by telling it to Jason, I'm going to hand the pen through the virtual screen, and Jason's going to pick up one of the pairs of glasses. Okay? Ready, Jason? Excellent. All right. So Jason and I go to Starbucks and we sit down, and I'm like, Jason, I'm so glad that you had time to hang out with me today, because A, I need a cup of coffee like nobody's business, and B, like, just so much going on in my life right now. So like the first thing, my mom, she just keeps hounding me about like getting a job, and it's just really annoying me. And that's my first problem. I'm just going to talk about it for the next 15 minutes. And then the other thing is I'm having problems with money just in general. Like obviously I don't have a job, right? You know that. But, and my mom's so angry about it, but like, I want to buy things and I don't have money, and I can't help my mom like and pay bills and anything like that. So money is just like crazy. And I'm going to talk about that for another 15 minutes. And then the other thing, the last thing is like I haven't been getting sleep really. I have insomnia. I think that's what you call it, right? Insomnia. Like I just don't sleep. I like stay up all night watching ridiculous Netflix television, and I'm so tired all the time. That was really great. Thank you so much, Jason. Thanks for buying my coffee too. I'll see you later.
Oh my God.
So,
What am I gonna do with all these glasses?
so Jason now is doing what?
Bearing the weight of the world.
Bearing the weight of Christina.
Yeah, he took in all your information, all your worries, all your problems with your mom. He took all your information and you got a coffee out the deal. You came out happy, and he's sitting there like, what just happened to me? I'm stressed out, and it's not my stress.
It is Christina's problems. It is Christina's energy. And Christina walked out, caffeine in tow. And did I ever listen to anything Jason had to say?
No, you walked up with a load of everything off your chest, pretty much. Just let it all off. And
Energy vampire. Now, there's something we can do, right? In the same scenario, if I pass the pen to Jason and Jason takes the glasses, and he puts them down to the side. Instead of holding them all in his hands or putting them all on his own face, what he can do is simply remind himself, Christina's problems are not my problems. I can be Christina's friend and I can listen, but I cannot hold on to Christina's negative energy. Because what happens to Jason when Jason goes home to his beautiful wife and beautiful 2 children? If he's carrying my stress and my energy, and I've sucked all of the life out of him, how is he going to be with his family? That's not fair. Go ahead. What did you say?
No, I just said irritable. I'm
Irritable.
that way too.
Go ahead.
He's going to talk about you. He's going to talk about the conversation that you had. And then he's going to talk about how you walked out and had a free coffee off of him. And now his wife's going to get mad at him because you got a free coffee out of him.
Because he's still holding my problems.
I'll do you one even better and stuff. Sometimes it sits on you long enough to where you start thinking about the issues you have, and then that starts manifesting into something else. And then now you're doing it to someone else.
Exactly. We need to learn not to be energy vampires to other people, but we also need to learn how to deal with the energy vampires in our lives. These are the 2 guys who I've taken all of this wisdom from and sort of put it into a package of a workshop so that we can all discuss, right? And tease out like what it is that these things mean to us, right? Energy vampires is very simple. You just need to know that sometimes we can be energy vampires to other people and how we want to stop doing that to people, but also how we can communicate with other people. You know what? Right now, I can't have you lay all your problems on me.
That's like me being a parent coming from like work. My son is 10, so it's just like I try to explain to him, like, I had a rough day because he can see it on me. I'm just like, I know my tone with certain things. I'm not trying to take it out on you, and I do not wish to take it out on you, but I'm just asking you if you can just, like clean your room or do this. I have enough stress because I'm a single parent too, and trying to juggle doing everything for you. It's not your fault. But if you can just do this one thing, that'll help alleviate just one little thing on my, my plate.
Yep. Awesome. It is 5:30 where you all are. You must really want to eat dinner.
Oh no, I'm not done with my day. My son has guitar lessons, so.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's very active. So between guitar, karate, judo, sparring, it's a mess. And then dealing with work.
So, first of all, I want to thank you, Christina. You know I love you, and I'm always inspired by having you with us. I'm truly grateful that you made time in your busy schedule to come and join us. It was lovely to see your beautiful baby.
Thank
And I
you.
want to thank all of you who participated today. I mean, your work here was inspiring as well, and actually gave me a lot of ideas about things that we need to do even on our own campus. So I'm going to take some of what you guys said as advice to a couple of meetings that I have coming up. And so don't know that the stories that you tell and the information that you share here is extremely valuable to both myself, and I know you have some advocates here as well as from the student perspective. But yeah, so I really want to thank you for doing that, because a lot of things came up, and I think we need to have more important conversations on our campus about some of the things that you guys said today. So thank you.
Absolutely. I really, really hope that just, sort of helps with a little bit of change over there.
Yeah, and we will do it. And so, Christina, thank you. Everybody, thank you. I want to wish you a good weekend, great weekend.
Thank you.
Next week we got a busy week. We're going to be giving out some stuff, turkeys and gift cards and things for the holiday.
Cool.
Whatever anybody wants to call it, just so that we can help people out. So, and we have a Middle States review next week as well, and the students are going to be participating in that. So, I hope to see you and participate with you, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Christina, as always.
Thank you, everyone. I'm gonna head to rehearsal.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thank
Chancellor.
you.
Bye,
we
Kobe. Bye,
appreciate it.
Samana. Bye, Junior. Bye, Kim. Bye,
Bye.
Lam.
Bye,
Good night.
Bye, Saran. Bye, Cynthia.
Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
Have a good night.
Good
Bye,
night,
Maria.
everyone.
Bye, Danielle. Bye, Chris. Bye, Sally. Bye, Henry. Bye, Fatima. Bye, Zenora. Bye, Maria. Bye, Sabrina. I think I said that one. Bye, Cynthia. Bye, Kobe. Bye, Junior. Bye, Annie. I'll see you guys next week. Cynthia.
Bye.
Jason, before
Thank
you
you
go,
so
Oh,
much,
wait a second.
Jason. Appreciate it. You're done for us, man.
1 second.